Welcome back for another episode of Sunday SoulDay. Today we sit down with visionary entrepreneur Anna Gannon, founder of Curbicus, a revolutionary product addressing one of the most overlooked environmental issues, dog waste disposal. Curbicus is setting a new standard with its compostable capsules and odor-trapping technology, which makes it easier for pet owners to be eco-conscious. Today, we're diving into Anna's journey and challenges she's faced in launching Curbicus and how she keeps herself fueled while building a company. Let's welcome her to the show. Welcome to Sunday SoulDay, Anna.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is such a treat.
Absolutely. I am so excited to have you on and really glad that our paths crossed. And just would love to talk to you about your journey, into entrepreneurship. But before we kind of dive into your incredible company and what you're building, I'd love to just let the audience get to know you a little bit better and, tell us your journey into entrepreneurship. Like, give us a little background. Because I know you're out in New York, right?
Yes, I live in Manhattan on the Upper East Side, which is where I'm from. I didn't venture very far. I went to school, undergrad in Massachusetts. I lived in Italy for a while. I went to the University of Florence to study art history. I love to travel, but this is where I come back to. I have
New York.
a undergrad degree in art history and Italian and physics and astronomy, and then I went to Columbia Business School here in New York. And a couple of my businesses, I co-founded an international shipping and logistics company. Then I acquired a food import and distribution company, and then another one. And then I ran a life sciences incubator. I was COO affiliated with MIT. And then my paths, I've done a couple of things. And then when I was taking a hiatus, I developed this new product. It was an idea, and then I, through a lot of pain, turned it into a company.
Amazing. Well, tell us all about it. Like, what is Curbicus and what inspired you to develop it? And like, how is your background in kind of operations and innovations, what you just kind of shared, like kind of shaped the idea?
Well, Curbicus it's called Curbicus, and it's the clean, compostable solution to dog waste for modern pet parents. That's a lot to swallow in one sentence, but it's basically a vacuum pooper scooper that uses self-closing compostable capsules. And that's what my patent is around, the self-closing compostable capsules. So the idea came to me living in Manhattan on the Upper East Side, walking around the streets, and people have dogs and they just leave they leave dog poop around, or B, they'll pick it up when people are looking at them and then walk down the street with the bag and then just whoops, just toss it. They won't even bother to get to the corner and put the bag in the garbage. So that really annoyed me. We all live here. We're all sharing the streets. Why do you do that? So I'm thinking to myself, yes, it's gross. We all know it's gross. Nobody wants to stick their hand in a bag, bend over and touch that and walk down the street holding it. Okay, but you got a dog. You knew that this was part of the game, number one. Number two, I thought if I could come up with something that you wouldn't have to touch it, you wouldn't have to smell it, and it looked good, it was easy, it was clean, because you can't really use a pooper scooper in cities because it's like a little shovel. What are you going to do with it? Watch it in your kitchen sink? No. So, but then primarily it had to look good. Because
Yes.
we're not walking around with something that looks atrocious, or it has to be almost like a fashion accessory that does something, that performs a function. So that's how I came up with it, and it had to. I'm talking about dog poop, so it had to be a little highbrow. So I came up with the name Curbicus because in Latin the word for urban is urbicus, and I put a C in front of it to curb your urban pet. So it's a little zany, it's a little tongue in cheek. But okay, that's me.
Oh my gosh. I love that. That is it, and you're so right. It has to be fashionable because it is New York City. So, women are fabulous there and, men too. But, I love that you really are trying to solve a problem, but doing it in a way that makes it, not only great for the environment, but also, the owner as well, and so they don't have to, tote poop around. I mean, that was one big reason why I don't have a dog right now, because I'm like, with little kids and their dirty hands and dogs, I'm like, it's just a lot. But no, I love this, and I can imagine, like, in really big cities like San Francisco, Chicago, like all these places, this is going to be incredible. Tell us a little bit, like, about, like, what makes Curbicus unique in the pet care industry, because it's such a huge industry, right? Like, so many really cool things in industry. And why do you think it's important to address, dog waste disposal in an environmentally responsible way that you are?
Well, my first endeavor was to just come up with a device.
Got
And
it.
and then I was doing a lot of research, and I saw that what actually was happening. So a couple of fun facts. In the US alone, we use 500 million plastic bags a year just on dog poop. Okay, so that sent me thinking. Then there's biodegradable bags. That's a marketing term. Biodegradable bags break down into microplastics. So that's not a real solution either. So then I kept digging and digging, thinking the only real solution is compostable bags. And if you go to a grocery store right now and you got a compostable bag to pick up your tomatoes or your fruit and vegetables, your thumb goes right through it. I mean, it's useless, right? If you're going to put it in front of a vacuum, it's going to explode. So that's no fun either. So I developed a compostable capsule, and it's twofold. Part of it goes into the device, and it's made of tea bag material, which is compostable, and the outside part of it is paper that's compostable, and there are fingers that come out that grab the poop. So it's like a hand. It's like a human hand, which is why it took me so long to get to this process where I am now. So that's the full cycle of the device. You don't touch it, and the compostable capsules is a circular solution. So to
Right.
compost the waste. And so my vision really is to have designated Curbicus compost bins on every other corner, let's say, and to compost the waste and use it as fertilizer in green spaces. I am not in the waste management business. That's a different discussion, but I am in the help you all pick up the dog poop business.
That is quite a vision, and I love that you explained it that way. And it's like, you don't even. I think people don't think about the plastic and the waste, And I mean, think about how many dogs. I mean, I don't even know the stats on how many dog owners there are, but I can only imagine. Just going to restaurants and seeing every other table having a dog. So, it's like I just can't even imagine the stats on that as well.
More than half of the households in this country have at least one dog.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
average dog, I'm not talking about huge dogs, but creates 274 pounds of waste a year. I mean, that's more than my body weight twice.
Oh
Ugh.
my God. Yeah, no, literally. So gross. Wow. No, but I'm like so fascinated by those stats. And I think, again, people don't think about that, So I love that you're solving this problem. You've kind of referred to Curbicus as the iPhone of pooper scoopers, which I just love that. Um, what design elements and functionality kind of set it apart? Aesthetically, like you kind of described it being a capsule, like, tell us a little bit more about the design elements and how you kind of came up with that.
So having in mind that I know I wouldn't want to walk around with anything ugly. So first we started talking about color. I wanted it to be recognizable from a block away. So, oh, you have a Curbicus. Oh, I have to have one too. So otherwise, you're not in the in crowd. And I wanted that kind of cachet with it. So color was very important. Obviously, I love wearing black, but you can't walk around with a black thing like that in Manhattan. Everyone thinks you have a gun. So had that discussion already. So we
Oh,
settled
God.
on beautiful, bright cherry red because it's gender neutral, and you can see it a mile away, and it's that's the brand. It's out there, and it speaks to every age group, every gender. And I like it anyway. And those are our colors, like gritty black, white, and then a flash of red. So color was important. Weight was very important because the majority of dog owners in New York have smaller dogs. They're under 35 pounds. The device can't weigh more than the dog. So we got the device finally down to, it's just under 2 pounds, which that took a while. It's 12 inches long, which again, it can't be too big because
Yep.
people go out, when you leave your apartment a couple of times a day to walk the dog, but you don't just usually just go out to do one thing. You go out and get a coffee, you go out and get some food, or you drop your kid off at school. So you can't be schlepping around too much stuff. So,
Mhm.
so that was a couple of things. Design elements. The ergonomic handle was a big one we changed a couple of times
Mm.
because my engineer I think he's like 5'9". So we did it to his hand. And my husband came home one day and tried to put his hand in there. He said, my husband's 6'2"-ish, if not more. But he was like, oh, this doesn't work for me. So now it's just like one nice handle without like the finger grips. That was a big one, the handle. Noise element. We thought that a lot of rescue dogs in New York, someone's mentioned, they might get scared of the noise. We did a lot of testing about that. Dogs don't really care about the noise unless it's in their territory. If you do it
Mhm.
in their apartment, then they go berserk. If you do it outside, without the fire engines and kids running around, the noise was not a problem.
Hmm.
So it took a lot of testing. On the leash clip, we decided to put a leash clip on it because, again, you don't want to be holding things. We wanted to make it as easy to use as possible.
Well, and also too, the owner can kind of clip the leash to it, and it's like this goes out at the same time the dog goes out. So I
Yeah.
love that. Well, the other thing that you mentioned was the odor trapping,
Yes.
which I thought was just genius, like because again, nobody wants to walk around with poop in a bag, because it's not odor trapping.
No, exactly.
I
Exactly.
love that.
And it's meant to be 100% clean. And I know people do weird things or something, an accident can happen. So the front part twists right off like a dust buster, and you can clean it if need be. To me, that was a must have because something's going to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, tell me, like, what impact do you hope Curbicus will have on the public health, particularly when it comes to managing bacteria and parasites found in dog waste?
But that's the interesting thing about dog waste. It's not because other animals like cows and horses are herbivores, and so their waste can be used for fertilizer directly. Dog waste, a lot of people think, oh, it's just animal waste, let it just go. And, when I take a walk in the forest, I can just leave it there. The answer is no, you can't. They're omnivores. So their waste can contain salmonella, E. coli, worms, all kinds of stuff that should not be left there because if it rains, it goes into the earth and then it can go trickle into the water system, which and rivers and things like that. It's just bad to begin with. And it's too acidic and it burns the grass. And that's just in suburban and rural areas. But in the city, people step in it. And you don't even know you're stepping in it. And then you track it into your house. You have kids. And I mean, the whole thing is disgusting and dangerous. And dogs touch each other,
Not agree more. I love that, you thought of that because that's one of the things. I remember my dog got really sick. I used to have a dog before I had kids. I had a pit bull, and he actually ate another dog's waste, and got very sick, So, the fact that you're thinking about all of those things, I know a lot of pet owners that are going to be very excited about this. Tell me, like, what's the retail cost of this? And how did you come up with pricing?
The cost for the device is $150, and the compostable capsules. This was my first business model. Is a subscription model. So you just sign up for it once on the website, and it just shows up at your door. So you don't think about it. So it's the recurring revenue for the company, but it's also the convenience for the customer. Then we decided to move into retail after I went to a couple of accelerators in the Midwest because I live in New York. I don't go to stores very frequently. Everything gets delivered to me. And
Beauty
that's
of
why.
living in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, to me, it was a matter of convenience. That's how I shop. It gets delivered. I don't even think about it. Oh, I'm about to run out, and it shows up down, here in my apartment.
So $150. Yeah, that is definitely affordable for something like this that you can use, just forever, really. Um,
And the,
you,
the,
you know,
the pet
yeah.
spend, what people spend on pets is
Oh,
craziness. The groomers, the Halloween costume,
absolutely.
the human grade food.
The toys that
Yeah,
my dog used to be through, like, don't even get me started on toys, like, and all the fun stuff that he had. Absolutely. I mean, it's completely affordable, for the, like, what you're getting. And so I love that you priced it that way. The subscription model is interesting too. So I love that you thought of that. Tell me a little bit more about, like some of the challenges that you kind of encountered. One thing is being an entrepreneur, this, you're a serial entrepreneur, like you tend to experience so many challenges, throughout the process. What First, tell me about the challenges, and then also just what kept you going, what kept you in that mindset of just, let me keep going.
the challenges of hardware is really, really difficult. It's very expensive, and it takes a long time. So I came up with this idea in 2017, and it's now 2024. And I've been
Well,
through 60 something prototypes, literally. I have a museum in my basement, and my husband wants me to throw stuff out. I said, no, we have to tell the story how this one changed.
absolutely. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
Anna.
yeah, it's crazy. But, and I bootstrapped most of it. I got couple of small grants, MIT, Penn State. I did an accelerator. They invested a little bit, and I have one angel investor who's just funding a pilot program that we're about to embark on. Other than that, it's been surviving on interns who love the vision and the mission, which is really, they're my backbone. These smart kids, they teach me as much as I teach them, honestly. And just knowing that it's going to change. People have to change their behavior, and I just want it to come. I want to see it to fruition.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing that you are bootstrapping. I know, myself included, a lot of entrepreneurs. The angel funding was probably, helpful in some ways, and the grants that you got as well. But what's been your biggest challenge around funding? Have you actually gone out for additional funding? What are some of the, kind of challenges that you face there, and how are you preparing for future investment rounds?
Challenges around funding are hardware again. Most people,
Yeah.
most investors are looking for they're doing what I call unicorn hunting. I don't really I don't want to be a unicorn. I know I'm going to have a successful product. I'm trying to make a difference. Being that software platform that somebody can copy in a hot second. That's not me. I have 4 patents. I'm going to do nice, steady growth, and people are going to walk down the street and say, "Oh, there's Curbicus." That's what I'm looking for, and I know I need investors that are passionate about social entrepreneurship, the environment, or dogs, or something that it has to resonate with them. And I'm not just going to pick any old investor that wants to write a check. That's just not. I need to work with this person. Yeah, it's like a bad marriage if they're going to try and tell me what to do, but it's not going to work. So I need someone with that kind of understanding. And I've met a couple of them, but they require traction. Like, that's a great idea. I love your idea, but are you sure people are going to actually pay? So that's why I'm doing this pilot test now. I already have pre-orders, but I
Wow.
need more. I need more.
That's interesting because it's so different in software, where they're talking about, oh, I need traction with the hardware, whereas software, people come in with an idea. I mean, we've heard about founders that write their idea on a napkin
Yeah.
and get millions of dollars, in funding. And they don't even know if they're actually a great founder that can bring it to a unicorn company, but the idea sounds good, So it's just so interesting. Do you think, like, being a woman, I just want to talk about that a little bit. Like, do you feel like, if you were not a woman, like you would have a different experience, like, or do you not feel that at all?
I do think, yes, absolutely. Especially Well, just capital Y, capital E, capital S. Yes, it would be very different. And I mean, I went to Columbia Business School. I was in one of their first accelerator called Project 2.8, meaning 2.8% of the VC money goes to women. And I was in their first accelerator, um, which was really,
2.8%. Let's just hang on to that number.
yeah.
2.8%.
And the people there were, I think there were 11 of us in that cohort, and we had an MD from you had to be affiliated with Columbia in some way, and we're all just looking at each other. We had to get up at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, but we just it's just this like camaraderie of like, this sucks, and we're smart, you know. Yeah.
So interesting because I see this, I've worked within startups, right? And then also on the VC side, and the amount of funding that goes through, you know, founders that identify as male or men, it's mind blowing compared to women. It's such a
Hmm.
lower percentage, and then don't even add, in if you're a minority or identify
Yeah.
as a person of color,
Yeah.
it's even less. And so I was always so curious about that. Like when we talked initially, and you're talking about, angel funding and the grants that you received, but mostly bootstrapping. I was just curious about what your experience was, going through this. It's really interesting. Like, as someone who kind of went through the incubator and accelerator, what are some key kind of takeaways that you experienced that you could maybe share with others?
The first incubator I did was called Founder Institute, and I didn't have a lot of options back then because I was a sole founder. And this was in 2018, and I'm glad I did it. It was torture. It was like the Gong Show. I mean, they eliminated people weekly. Like if you couldn't do your 90-second pitch, they graded you. They had a team, it was a grade from 1 to 5, and you couldn't get a 3. So you'd either get a 1 or a 2 or a 4 or 5 by a couple of judges, and it was horrendous. The anxiety going in there
Yes, I can't imagine. Oh my
in front of a bunch
goodness.
of people. Okay. So 11, we started out with like 49 people, 11 graduated. And I think 2 of us still have a company.
Wow.
But I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart. So then after that, I did a couple of other accelerators, the Columbia one, accelerators. And then finally got accepted to one that gave us some equity funding in Iowa. They believe Iowa, and because my CTO is from Iowa, they understand hardware. They like hardware, but they have a different understanding of valuation and spending money.
Also,
Like on the East Coast and the West Coast, generally, you would start out at a valuation a lot higher, like $5 million. Let's say if you have a couple of patents, they're way, and there's not a big venture community in the Midwest. That's not the way they invest their money. It's just too risky. It's just not their risk tolerance. And I did another accelerator in Topeka, Kansas, and the first one in the animal health corridor. And then to me, I was so thrilled to be invited to that because to them, animals are like big cows and horses, not dogs. So they thought I was, woo, here comes this lady from New York. She's talking about dogs. It was really funny, but it was great. I got to meet all these people, and they thought it was really novel and interesting. So I'm going to go back and try and do a pilot program in Kansas. And it also made me think, as we were talking about my original business model, direct to consumer, they really said, no, you have to, and they invested. They said, you have to do retail also, because that's how we shop. They actually get in the car and go here, there, and everywhere, and Target and Home Depot and all that, and go shopping.
oh yeah. I mean, I used to live in, the Midwest, and I was born in Iowa, and we lived in Minnesota. And I mean, people don't have much delivered. It's like you get in the car, you go to the mall, you go to, so that totally resonates with me. I love that you put yourself out there too. Like, I think that's one thing that I find with women getting started, it's like getting over the hump of like putting themselves out there, to just even try some of these things, like even if they don't work out. So I love that you put yourself out there.
It's a little anxiety provoking. I'm not gonna lie. It's like, okay, at this point in my life, what's the worst thing that could happen? Somebody's going to say no, or that's a dumb idea. No one ever told me it was a dumb idea. No one, they said, I'm not interested in investing. Okay, great. But no one ever said it's a dumb idea yet.
Definitely not a dumb idea. So I can attest to that. So tell me a little bit about your future ask to investors, like, as you're kind of preparing to launch, because when are you going to launch, actually? Just so
So
we're
starting a pilot test, which the product just arrived from China last week because we had this port strike. We have 10 devices and 1,000 capsules and beautiful packaging, and we're sending it out to as many people as possible. I have a significant email list, and say, please test it with nice instructions, very simple, easy to follow. And then you're going to have a phone call with me. I'm going to ask you a few questions and give me your honest feedback. But the goal is to get as many pre-orders as possible. Use 20 capsules if you want. I'm sending you 70. If you want to use 20, you want to use 2, you want to use 50, or you want to use all 70, whatever. And then when you're done, send it back. I'm paying for shipping back and forth, and I'm going to send it to someone else until we rip through those 1,000 capsules. And then I'm going to turn to my potential investor list, people in Iowa, some people in Kansas, and say, look, you want attraction? Here it is.
Mm-hmm. Smart. I love that. Well, I'm excited for it to actually make it to the market. So I know a lot of my friends will probably be jumping on it as dog owners. So you keep me posted on that. Tell me a little bit more about like your pre-launch marketing strategy. Like how do you plan on leveraging? Because like I can see this being really big on social media.
Yeah.
And getting people, just excited about it and, sharing it and having this really cool device that doesn't exist, like, tell me a little bit about your kind of marketing strategy.
So definitely social media. And I think, and it's very, very visual product and you can do people love to talk about poop in general, and it makes them laugh and it's zany and it's like, it's crazy, right? So definitely, as we discussed, a TikTok for sure, Instagram Reels, because you have to see it in action. But I'm also, and some interns going to Central Park and all the dog parks. People, and if I'm out there holding it, people come over and say, "What is that?" And I've left these funky postcards around parks, and I've gotten some pre-orders that way.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so smart. Pet stores too, having a whole party around the launch of the product.
And I was also thinking that it's so much easier to start people who haven't had a dog yet, like going to rescue center, rather than changing people's behavior, which I'm going to have to do. Start with someone who's just getting a dog and say, hey, try this, because you haven't gotten any bad habits yet that I have to break.
Well, that's a part of the process, right? It's going to be gradual, but I'm sure I can see this device in lots of people's hands. So, tell me, like, as a visionary entrepreneur with experience across a lot of different industries that you shared earlier with our audience, like, what is the biggest piece of advice that you can give to entrepreneurs who, are kind of working to solve everyday challenges with innovative solutions, like how you're doing with Curbicus?
I would say if you see a need for something, or if you see something that's broken, if you as an individual see it, you can't be the only one. It's impossible. Right? If I saw dog shit everywhere, everyone else is seeing the same thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
So if you see a need for something, try and find a solution, and it probably won't be right the first time, but there's going to be a solution that if it's really important to you, you'll figure it out. And then you have to figure out, it's not a hobby, how to make it a business.
Yes.
Because it's very easy to figure something out, but are people going to pay for it?
That's really great advice, is really around the problem, and then solving the problem, like that you find yourself, because you're not alone. Like you said, there's people seeing all the dog poop all around. But I love that advice because it's so simple, but it's so powerful too, because it's like, you're not only solving the problem, but then think about it in a way that almost like scales, where people actually pay for it. So that's that. Yeah, I love that. Love that advice. So simple. Well, tell me a little bit about, because I know how busy I am as an entrepreneur, and I have to carve in my self care time. Like, tell me, like, how are you taking care of yourself? How are you fueling your mind, your body, and your soul?
That varies day to day.
I can only imagine. I can
No,
only
it really
imagine.
does. Like if,
Yeah.
um, I apply for grants and I get 9 no's, and then I'm like, ugh, I don't want to apply for anymore. And then I get that one, yay, yes. Then I'm like, okay, this is good. We're on a roll here. But it's not really a roll. But that one yes out of every 9 no's makes a difference. Sometimes I just don't want to talk to anyone.
Mhm.
Sometimes, that feeling of like,
Oh
um,
yeah.
but then, and then I could go to an event every night around startups, around entrepreneurship, around marketing, and I would, and I'd be like, oh, I really don't want to go. It's raining. It's cold. I've been out every night, and I would go. My body would be there. My head would be, I
Mhm.
don't know where.
Mhm.
What do I have to do tomorrow? I didn't do this today. I have to. Then I finally said, you know what? No, no, I'm not going. And you know what? I didn't miss anything.
Absolutely.
I was like, no is good. And you don't have to make, and I used to make up white lies. I can't go because I don't know, I have something else. Now it's like, no.
No is a complete
Yes,
sentence.
exactly. And I
Yeah,
don't feel badly.
absolutely. No. Well, and I love that you're, thinking of yourself like that, because I think that's the hard part about entrepreneurship is you're almost like, I have to say yes, like,
Oh,
because you're
yeah.
not where you want to be, right? So you're trying to find all the ways to get there, and you're like, well, I might miss out here if I don't go do that. So I love that you're trying to find that harmony, within yourself, because you have to start with you first, and how are you feeling? Like, do you have any, like, kind of daily rituals around, like, taking care of yourself, just to make sure that you can show up and do this, because this really is not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yeah, I do. I'm a Virgo, and I'm a very solitary person. So I get up early in the morning, and
I'm not a Virgo, but I'm a solitary person.
I spend literally like a long time reading. I catch up on my,
Mm,
but I have to read before and I have my coffee, and I just don't want to talk to a human being until I'm ready to do that. And then I do exercise outside of the house. I do leave the house, and then I can deal with other people.
but you got to get that recharge
I
first. You
do,
gotta,
absolutely,
oh,
absolutely.
yeah. Okay, so tell me about your reading, because I'm an avid reader. The viewers are also avid readers. They love a lot of the recommendations that my soul fueling guests have given. Do you have any recommendations or anything that you're reading right now that's exciting?
Um, in terms of, well, besides journals and things, I didn't just finish, but I love it's called the Neapolitan Trilogy by Elena Ferrante.
I haven't read that.
It's about it was translated from the Italian to English, but now it's on it's on Max. It's 3 books, it's 4 books maybe. I don't remember, 3 or 4, but I read that. It's about female friendships.
Love that.
Yeah, it's really good. That's one that I would highly recommend. It's not for everyone, but it's good.
Okay. That's okay. Not all the books are. So that's why we give lots of recommendations around here. That's so good. Um, well, the last question I have, just out of curiosity, is you are married, and an entrepreneur, and I'm always so curious because it's you're not working a normal 9 to 5. You're working a lot of different hours, irregular hours. How do you kind of harmonize your relationship as well as just being a female entrepreneur?
The interesting question, because this is my second husband. It would not have worked with my first. Honestly, no
No,
way.
I love this. This is why I ask, because I'm so curious, because I'm single, and I'm like, it's to find someone who understands, like that. I
Yes. So,
think it's
yeah,
really
my
important.
first husband was from a different country and 17 years older. So let's just, yeah.
Yep,
Um,
different.
so my second husband is Canadian and 4 years younger. So he's, go, do whatever you want. You know, no, he totally, I'm on calls on the weekend. I'm on calls with China in the middle of the night. And he's just like,
Hmm.
make sure you turn out the lights. Okay, fine. He's like, totally. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, just supportive, and I think that's
Totally.
what it's what I'm finding. It's so important for, I mean, really any relationship, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, or if you're even a stay-at-home mom, is just really creating space for that person,
Yeah.
to show up as their full self, whatever that is,
Mhm.
and be supportive. And so, I'm always so curious because I find that there's a lot of compromising that women tend to have to do, even if they are chasing entrepreneurship and, chasing their dreams and building companies. I always find that there's, some level of sacrifice that goes into their relationships, whether it's with women, whether it's with their partner. Um, so are you, like, outside of your partner, like, do you feel like, you've felt that, like, sacrificing in your relationships, maybe with like female friends?
Um, that's a really interesting question. I went to Smith College undergrad, which is an all women's college. So we make a lot of time for each other. And I graduated from college in 1985. That's a long time ago. And
Not long ago.
and I speak to one of my friends just called me before we started talking to wish me luck. Um, we speak to each other. I speak to one of my college friends at least once a day. So if we don't see each other all the time, we speak. Yeah. So my female friends are a lifeline.
Hmm. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I think that is the key, is like putting in the effort. And it's so, I find that some people are really great at it, and others are not. They're not great at kind of harmonizing their life and carving out that time. But it's so important, and I think as women, we need each other, and then also, like, if you have a partner, like, that's important to have a supportive partner as well. And so, I'm always curious about that, because I do think, like, we spend so much time building and doing, right? And I'm just curious about, every woman's experience in this.
Yeah, I think you know, my friends are really important to me, and I do, even if it's just like, oh, I saw this and it reminded me of you. You know what? Thank you.
Yeah. Love that. Oh my gosh. You have been such a treat. I just enjoy talking to you, and I enjoyed our first conversation, and I know the audience is going to learn a ton because I didn't know this much stuff about poop and everything after. So I'm like, and all the things that you're building, I'm so excited for you, like, I love that you're doing something that hasn't been done before, and I just wish you the best of luck. I really do.
Thank you. This was so nice. This was really fun. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And everyone, as always, have an amazing Sunday. And if you can do us a favor, put a comment below and tell us your favorite part about this interview. Have a wonderful Sunday. Bye.